thank you so much that I can be here tonight. I just want to thank Nicole and Nadia and to everybody that actually made this happen. So please, let's just give them a hand of applause. I'm actually quite shocked because Nicole and Nadia, you're also grade 10 now. They only know me for 1/4 of their term. I was only here when you guys were grade 8, right? For the first term. That's all they know about me. That's all. So I was only here for that short time. They weren't here when the grade 8s that left and the grade 10s that left and the matrics that left. I've been here every Wednesday morning to come and teach them. Teach them about the word, teach them about God, teach them about what God is saying to them, and about who they are. I love the song that we just did, saying, I know who I am. I'm holy, I'm righteous, and all that, so that was very good. So, guys, thank you so much. I know you don't know me a long time, but it just shows you that God can use you in such an amazing way. Just for a small time, you can impact such a seed. And look at what they did tonight. Yes, I'm really, really proud of you guys. Really. My heart is overwhelmed with amazing joy. Really, I'm proud of you. Please give them another. Thank you so much for lending me your ears. I would really like to share with you something that I've been preparing since 2 weeks ago when Ms. Ulyssa actually asked me to come and prepare. And I asked God, what do you want me to share, Lord? And I started typing about 2 weeks ago, and then I just typed, and then I started editing it, and this thing really is in my heart. This is in my heart. This is in my heart. And this is something that will be able to really help you, There are 3 things as people that we need to survive. Okay? 1 is food. So without food, we won't be able to survive, right? We're going to die without food, right? The second thing that we need as people is we need shelter. Because if you don't have shelter, if you don't have a place to sleep tonight, and you don't have a place to sleep the next night, and the next night, and the next night, it becomes difficult for your survival. And yet we know many people on the streets that don't have homes. So we're actually lucky, right, to have homes and to have food. Even if you just have 1 meal a day, you're lucky, you're blessed. You're among the fortunate. So that's something that we need for survival. It's 3 things, right? The first one, food. The second one, shelter. And the third thing we need that we don't always put emphasis on is meaning. Meaning is your why for being alive. Your why for being alive. Now ask yourself for a second, why am I alive? Some of us don't know the answer to that question. But tonight, I want to share with you something that I read in a book, right? So this book that I read was about Viktor Frankl. Now, Viktor Frankl was a Holocaust survivor, and he wrote the book called Man's Search for Meaning. Now, before I tell you what this guy wrote about, the definition of meaning, right? I'm going to tell you what the Holocaust was about. So, the Holocaust was where, in Europe, in World War II, 6 million Jews died. They were killed in a genocide in the Holocaust. Out of that 6 million, there were a couple of people that survived. And he was one of these people that survived. So I would encourage you to go and read some of the Holocaust stories, because it's going to show you that regardless of what suffering we are going through right now, regardless of the suffering that you might be going through at home, it's not nearly as much to compare to what those people went through in those concentration camps. But tonight, there's many survivors, but tonight I want to focus on Viktor Frankl. So, Viktor Frankl comes out of this ordeal, this place where they worked for 22 hours of the day. Now, most of us work for 8 hours if we're lucky. But these people worked for 22 hours of the day. It's almost like a whole day, 2 hours to rest. Right? What did they work in? They worked in tunics. Now, if you watch like Bible stories, whatever, you'll see these tunics that Jesus and the disciples wore, right? They wore it in Israel. It was fine because it was hot in Israel. It's always hot in Israel. But in Europe, do you know that temperatures plunge to minus 40 degrees Celsius? Plunge. It's so cold that you can die of frostbite. And yet these are the things that these people wore while they were working for 22 hours of the day. They were treated worse than dogs, these Jewish people. And this man was one of the survivors, right? Do you know that when they ate for when they worked for 22 hours of the day, they ate a morsel of bread and watered soup. It was the soup was so watered, it was more water than the sanitizer. That's what they got to drink. That was their food. They slept on wood. Bankie susiri. That's what they slept on. Yet this man survived, and he writes a book called Man's Search for Meaning. Now, it's a miserable life. It's a miserable life to be in that concentration camp. It's so miserable that he writes in his book, one night they were sleeping, and one of his comrades, because they called each other comrades because they had camaraderie with those that were their fellow prisoners. This guy has a dream, but his dream becomes a nightmare. He starts sweating. He starts screaming out loud. And now it's in a place like this, basically, but basically almal van hulle lê op hulle bankies. So all of you are lying on their bankies. Think about it like that. And this one guy is screaming, and he's sweating, and the nightmare is so severe. Do you know that nobody wakes him up? Nobody wakes him up. Why? Because in comparison, the nightmare in comparison to what is happening to them every day, what is happening to them every day is worse than that nightmare. So they left him to sleep, and they left him to have that nightmare. Because they thought, you know what, let's just give the guy the peace of sleep. Because for him to wake up and to realize this is the state that we are in, is going to be more torment to him. And this guy comes out of this ordeal, out of this miserable time for 4 years of his life. He doesn't know if his wife is still alive. He doesn't know if his family is still alive. He's basically alone, fighting for survival every day. He comes out and he writes this. Meaning means to have purpose and to take responsibility for your own life and for the life of that of another person. That is meaning. That is meaning, to have purpose, to take responsibility for your own life, and to take responsibility for at least one other person. People think about it. This guy comes out of this ordeal, and yet he's still thinking about another person. Something inside of him must have been great. Something inside of him must have said to him, you know what, I can do all things. Right? And he writes there's 3 sources of meaning, right? In order for you to have meaning, to uphold meaning in your life, you need 3 sources in order to uphold that meaning. The first source is work. Now, many of us think it's a curse to work, right? Many of us, we wake up and again. Many of us have to go to school. 6 o'clock you have to go catch the bus. Again. Assignment again. Exams again. Work is something that actually gives you purpose. Can I take you back to the Bible? Genesis 2 verse 5. God creates the earth. The earth is now already created because God spoke the earth into existence for 6 days, right? And before he rested, it started raining on the earth. He allowed it to rain on the earth. And then what happened is thorns and thistles began to come out of the ground. And you know the first thing that God thought? This was now before he created man. He said, there's no man to tend and to keep the ground. That's what God thought before he created Adam. 5 verses after that, Adam is created. Why was Adam created? Why were we created? To tend and to keep. We were created to work. So in order for you to have meaning in your life and to uphold that meaning, you need to work hard in everything you do. Whether you're at school, whether you're a mother, whether you're a father, whether you're a child in your community, whether you're doing something for your school, you need to work hard in everything you do. You know, King Solomon says in Ecclesiastes 9 verse 10, and he was the wisest man that ever lived, the wealthiest man that ever lived, and not to mention the most pleasurable man because he had 1,000 wives. 1,000, he had 700 wives and 300 concubines. So think about it, 1,000 women want to give themselves to this man. So, I mean, he was something. You know, that makes him quite something. Anyway, he writes in Ecclesiastes 9 verse 10, in everything that you do it with all your might and with all your power, because there is no wisdom, knowledge, or strength to the grave where you are going. So this life that we have, guys, is so precious. Your life is so precious. Don't throw it away at being lazy. Don't throw it away at not being goal-driven. Don't throw it away by waking up at 1 o'clock when you can wake up at 8 o'clock or 6 o'clock. Go for a park run here in Germiston. Get involved in the Rotary Club. Get involved in a church. Get involved in your community. Do something for your family. Do something. You need to work in order to have meaning in your life. You need to work, and you need to work hard. Because once Genesis 2 verse 15 says, after now Adam is created, God says, here is the man, I've created Adam to tend and to keep the garden. So initially, before man was created, before we were created, God thought, these people need to work. So work is not a curse. And if that's what you've been taught, or that's what you think, get it out of your mind. You know that there's no such word as retire in the Lord's language? Hebrew is the Lord's language. And there's no such word as retire. So I'm going to work until the day I die. Because there's no such thing as retire. You know? We are supposed to work. It is purposeful. It is purposeful. It gives us purpose in our lives. The second thing that holds this meaning up is love. Not romantic love, by the way. That too, of course. But love. You know, the word love in Hebrew means, the word love in Hebrew is ahava. Now, ahava means to give. And I was taught when I was studying theology that love means, the word love is spelled G-I-V-E. What is that? Give. Give yourself an hand. Love! You missed it. Love is to ahava, is to give. It's to give. Now Paul writes a beautiful, beautiful definition of love, and I just want to read it to you guys, and it's in 1 Corinthians 13, and he says, ahava is patient, it is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not arrogant, it is not rude, it's not irritable or resentful. Love rejoices in the truth, it bears all things, it believes all things, it hopes all things. Ahava never fails. To give never fails. To give never fails. So love means to serve God and to serve other people. That's why it's the greatest commandment. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, and your strength. And the second is as the first. You shall love your neighbor as you love yourself. This is what gives us meaning in life, people. This is what gives us meaning. Not TikTok, not Instagram, not our DSTV, not our Netflix, not our work, not our money, not that. This is the stuff that gives us meaning. Doing everything that you can do, your work with purpose. Number 2, giving, loving. You know, it's not easy to give. It's something that you need to train yourself. For some people it comes easy, for others not. And giving, you need to train yourself to give. And that is what love is. Never ever have a distorted view of what love is. Love is not a kiss. Love is not a cuddle. That's not what love is. Love is to give. Love is to give. The third and final one that I want to share with you guys is, this is a beautiful one. Courage in the face of difficulty. That's what Viktor Frankl says. Courage in the face of difficulty. And I'm going to give you guys an example, and I know all of you have watched this movie, the Cinderella story. Right? In the Cinderella story, the last one that I watched, I don't know, there's so many of them, but the last one that I watched, this girl's mother passes away. The Cinderella mother passes away in the beginning of the movie. But before she passes away, she calls Cinderella to her and she says, Cinderella, this is the greatest gift that you can ever have. Have courage and be kind. That's what she teaches her. So obviously Cinderella grows up, she's courageous, she's kind to everybody in the home because her life is good. So she's courageous and she's kind. Yeah, her father meets somebody else, her father gets married, she has an evil stepmother, and she has these 2 evil stepsisters. But still, she remembers what her mother says to her, have courage and be kind. Not in the face of when it's great and when it's good and when things are going well. In the face of what? Difficulty. In the face of difficulty, you need to be courageous and you need to be kind. Is this still on? 1, 2. Is this still on?
No.
1, 2, test 1, 2, 2. No. Is another one? Okay, it's fine. You have to be courageous and you have to be kind. Now, in the situation that she finds herself in, her sisters treat her badly, her stepmother treats her badly, so badly that it's so obvious, it's not even subtle. It's so bad that she gets treated, right? That her stepmother sends her to the attic. It's her father's house, but she can't sleep in the room anymore that she sleeps in. She needs to go sleep in the attic, right? Terrible circumstances. She constantly needs to make them food. She constantly needs to tie this lady's shoes. You know, dumb stuff to make her think she's a servant. She's a slave. And she meets this prince, and eventually she gets married to this prince, right? But before she gets married to this prince comes and looks for her, and the stepmother puts her in the attic, obviously that nobody will find her. And she's got so much hurt that's going on in her life. But yet, when this prince comes and he finds her, and they now walk off together, and they're about to get married together, her stepmom comes down the attic, and she stands on the stairs, petrified of what's going to happen to my life right now. And she says, she turns around, Cinderella turns around and she says, I forgive you. In the face of difficulty, guys, we need to have courage. Courage to be kind, courage to be loving, courage to not be resentful, courage to not be irritable, I beg your pardon. We need to have courage in the face of difficulty. So let's go through it again. Meaning is something that we need in our life. In order for us to uphold meaning in our life, we need purposeful work. We need love. Not we need love, we need to give love. Right? We need to give. And the third, we need to have courage in the face of great difficulty. And in our time, young people, you are faced with a lot of stuff like non-binary, whatever. You're faced with all these regulations and things that are changing, things that are not right. It's not according to God's word. It's not the right way. You need to have courage in the face of difficulty, not only when it's easy. Say and do the right thing. Not because it's easy, but yes, because it's difficult. And that's what courage means. Courage means you still are petrified, but you still go forward and you do the right thing. So in closing, guys, I really hope that you receive tonight. Go think about your meaning. And go do very well in everything that you do. And go give your life to people and to God. Take responsibility for people around you. Because that is going to give you great meaning. Once again, thank you so much that I could be here tonight. I really, really appreciate your ears. Thank you for lending it to me tonight. And I pray that each and every one of you will really take this to heart. Take this to heart. Go work hard, go give hard, and go and have courage in the face of great difficulty.